Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Kansas City Legends. I am here with a very good friend of mine, Wolfgang Doghouse.
Hello.
From KC Fur. We are just hanging out. We've been friends for a long time. And
oh, gosh. How many years now?
It's been about 10 years now.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And I have... yeah, we've actually... And what's funny is as long as we have been friends, I don't think we've ever had like a conversation about furry stuff.
Have we not really?
I mean, we've talked
mildly,
about
maybe.
like mildly furry stuff, but normally it's we've talked about a lot of different things, but we've never really kind of gotten deep into
like furry culture
and things
like
that.
I'd say so. That's kind of odd in all that time, but
yeah,
I guess we haven't.
We've always talked about, other shit. There's always been something more pressing going on. Hopefully they can say, go ahead and just make sure they can hear you real good with that.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Yep, sounds like you're pretty good. I'm going to move it a little bit closer.
Okay. Quality muffles right here, muffled sounds.
So, for those who don't know who you are, tell them a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, again, my name is Wolfgang Doghouse. I am actually a licensed massage therapist by trade. I enjoy my job quite a lot.
I bet.
No, nothing like that, even with a really hot guy. No. But, yeah, so that's what I do by trade. It pays me pretty well. I enjoy it. And I'm on the board of KC Fur. I have been for, at least 6 years, but I've been involved at a pretty intimate level with the local fur group. That's KC Fur, by the way. We are a 501c7. There's all sorts of crap about me. I have a complicated life. But I don't even know where to go.
Let's start off a little bit with with KC Fur. How did you get affiliated with KC Fur? What is it for those people who don't know?
So I became affiliated with KC Fur through my ex-boyfriend and ex-roommate, Sandy.
Shout out to Sandy, I love him.
Yeah, he's a wonderful person, probably the best person that I've ever met in my life, and most intelligent person that I've ever met in my life in person. I have not met Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I would love to. The guy is a genius, but he's a wonderful person. We used to date. Actually, I was in a really bad spot living in Albuquerque where I had lost my job. The guy laid me off 1 month before I'd have been eligible for unemployment in that state. Like a douche. So Sandy and I had an interest with each other, and he offered me a place to stay for myself and my dog. So I moved out to Kansas City and Grandview, and he had been a member of KC Fur, which, you could say very loosely at that time. I mean, they had a group, but it wasn't like as well organized as it is now. Mm-hmm. We were able to get away with a lot more things back in the day. But now, I mean, we have over 400 and I think 50 people just in our Telegram group.
Oh, wow.
So we've been around for quite a long time. He has been involved in KC Fur since it was an infant, where it used to be this is just sheer tell, I wasn't here for
right.
that, but where it used to be like movie nights, so they would go out for and just watch movies together, play board games together, real nerdy stuff. And it has grown since then. But yeah, anyway, so I moved here and immediately was introduced into the KC Furs and went to their events, and it has grown quite a lot since then. And like I did say, it is a NPO. If anything were to ever happen to us, anything that would be in our funds would immediately go to KC Adopt, which is our local animal care. KC Adopts is complicated because they kind of took over the SPCA.
Okay.
Even. and the SPCA was like, heck yeah, and the city was like, heck yeah, everybody loves KC Adopts. They're a wonderful, wonderful organization. So that's our recognized charity that we point towards now. And if we were to ever dissolve for whatever reason, anything,
it would go
towards them.
So first things first, I think let's why don't we just try to dispel some myths about furries in the fur community.
Sure. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. First things first, it's, things that I've heard is that like it's all about weird sex and fucking in fursuits and things like that. And as I have gotten to know people in the furry community, because I I hang out with all of you guys and all of that, although I'm not a furry, much to the chagrin of,
Well, I was actually going to ask you a question on that note and be like, how many real life friends do you have that you hang around aren't furries? Like, what's the percentage? What's the ratio here?
Actually, now it's probably like 70-30 to non-furries. There was a time...
That's still a pretty high ratio for a normie.
There was a time where it was probably like 70-30 the other way.
Oh, yeah?
But,
and that's just because of your history.
Right. That's just because of my history, people that I know and that I've gotten close to.
Yeah.
So I did spend a lot of time with the furry community, and it helped me in a lot of ways kind of not have those same kind of myths, because I remember very, very early on when I was much younger than I am now, I dated someone in Florida and they consider themselves to be a furry, and I was like, I don't even know what the fuck this is, but it sounds weird and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, what this had to have been at least 15 years ago, right? Maybe
something like that.
Yeah,
something like that. 15.
So that was not a very good time for the furry fandom when it comes to social media.
It wasn't even a social media. This was like in-person thing, and it was weird, and like.
Well, yeah,
there wasn't a word for
not just like. Well, I mean, you got to say like the CSI episode.
Yeah.
The Fur and Loathing in Las Vegas, which, by the way, furries hate because it's such a horrible misrepresentation of the fandom. But even that was like the first, and I think that would have been around 15 years ago. But even if you weren't aware about that, like that was the introduction. So to anybody that didn't know or didn't see the episode, that's the first time they ever heard of it. So of course it might be like a little weirder. Now we're a lot more known.
Yes.
So I feel like people are just more aware of us. It's not as shocking or jarring.
Right.
Not to say that some of those misconceptions still exist, or honestly, just to put it bluntly, the prejudice of it. But it has gotten a little better. It's definitely gotten better over time.
I think one of the biggest things that I remember was, when this person told me, I'm a furry. They were like, my totem animal was an otter, and I was like, I don't know what any of that means. But immediately I was like, went into like, kind of like, oh, are you sexually attracted to animals? Like, what is happening here? And
right. That is the usual go-to.
Yeah, because I'm like, if being in, like, if looking at furry art, and I've seen some gorgeous furry art,
right,
doesn't really do anything for me, but I'm like, that's beautiful and amazing and wonderful, and that person's super talented,
incredibly talented artist out there.
But like, if looking at a dog makes your dick hard, then you might be attracted to animals, and then it's but I think it's deeper than that.
Absolutely. And I have to say on that one note, what is annoying about that preconception where somebody's like, oh, you're a furry, you fuck dogs. It's like, you don't have that same immediate go-to preconception with somebody that says, hey, I'm really into anime, or I do cosplay. They're like, oh, you do hentai? Right. You like to tentacle fuck or something like that? And like, well, and it just, no, like, it's not, I feel, and it's kind of weird to say it this way, but it's just not fair.
I mean, no, I think it does take getting to know someone who's in the community, and having conversations with people and uncomfortable conversations. I think anytime you're dealing with something that you don't know about, having those, because I think I asked maybe some real dumb questions early on in the beginning of our
right. I
think
we all
stuff.
do. Like, even the people that turn out to be furries will probably ask some really
shitty, dumb questions
or cringy questions that you're just like,
like I've always, and it's still to this day. We were just talking about it, and I was just like, because there are people who, I think the majority of the fandom don't actually like have sex in their suits.
No, yeah. So we would call that mer-suiting.
Okay.
Mer is like, oh, mer.
Mer for those people who are uninitiated is what?
It is like it's slang for like that's hot in a way, the same way as like oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
It's like a sexual, like the sexual
right,
sound.
Yeah. And it's very loose too, because you say it very often like jokingly or just very casually, like, oh, that's murder, something like that, or like
I've heard that one, and I've heard the ooh woo.
Yeah, ooh, which is OWO, or UWU. Ooh woo,
which is like that's the like
that
that's more overtly sexual, I think, to me than the mer.
So that actually came from a meme, and it's absolutely hysterical. But okay, so there's many iterations of the meme.
Okay.
The original meme, it's all right, but the problem is like, so that was created by somebody who didn't like furries, and they were trying to mock the fandom. So they were like putting these two really stereotypical nerdy guys that are like chubby and look like they have poor hygiene, and they're at their computers like RPing with each other. And RP is role play,
right?
By the way, which it's not to be confused with D&D.
They're not the same kind of role play, guys.
Different kind of role play. If you want to be really specific, I mean, the type of role play that they're pointing towards would be ERP, which is erotic role play.
Got it.
Yeah. So sure, there's role playing that's totally innocuous, and then there's more spicy.
There's spice. It's got a little bit more spice on spice.
Yeah, it's muy cante. But so yeah, it's just this meme. But there's another one that I absolutely love, where they did the Punisher, and it's like the Punisher at his computer in the '80s old comic.
Oh,
and
that's
he's
amazing.
saying the same thing, and it's just, oh, I love that one. I love that iteration. But my point is the funny thing about that and all the other jokes that people try to make about furries is that furries usually just roll with it and they make it their own.
Right.
It has been so many times somebody will draw something like making fun of a furry, and then we're like, that's funny. I'm taking that.
I'm going to take that.
And redrawing it better.
And then it just becomes part of the culture.
Yeah, and we're and it's fine. So there's definitely an aspect to a lot of people, at least engaging in the fandom, where the cringe is actually kind of like a ha-ha joke, but you don't really engage in it. It's just like, what can you say that is so like
to me, I feel
and
like
that's kind of there's entertainment in that.
The cringe is part of the culture. Like,
yeah, to some degree, but I don't want to speak for the entire fandom. We are very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
We come from all over the globe. I think the biggest base is probably in the Northern America and European areas, but yeah, there are definitely those that don't like anything erotic involved with the fandom, and that has history in it too.
Right.
And it's not a good history. Most people that have a little bit of rationale to it, if they look at that and hear the history, they're like, yeah, that's not okay. And to be less vague or cryptic about that, it's like there was a group called Burn Furs way back in the day. This is like 90s, I think, maybe early 2000s, where they were like very anti not safe for work content. And it's like, don't do any of that. If you do that, people could see it and it'll paint furries as a bad person and just ruin the fandom. And then, I mean, that was a excuse that they might use. And then, of course, a lot of them claim that they didn't like it either. Now, I'm not saying if that's true or not, but if they actually didn't like it and they were just like shaming themselves, that's a possibility. But, you know, there was definitely that group. That group has dissolved because they're really shitty.
You're like, because they're not good people.
They're not good people. And it turned out that a lot of them were also like white supremacists and like they didn't even like gay people. Which is like totally crazy because our community is very largely LGBTQIA and like of any fandom out there, we probably have the highest percentage of people who identify somewhere in that spectrum.
Which I think is interesting. Like it's one of the things that I see a lot in kind of my dealings with the fandom is, and one of the things that kind of drew me to having essentially, you know, 70% of my friends were furries was this, you know, idea of sexual freedom and
expression
and just being able to, you know, say things and do things and really living in kind of, I hate to put it this way, but like slut culture.
Well, there are definitely those out there. I would say that it is a very sex positive culture.
That's what I probably should have said other than slut culture. But.
I don't personally engage with that myself. I wouldn't say that. I don't want to say a percentage on that because I'd probably be totally inaccurate. But there's a substantial amount that are totally cool with, you know, just having casual sex, and that's very, very common.
Very, very condom.
Very, very condom. That's important. Protection is important. Casey Fur cares. But and we do pass those out at cons. Well, we used to. We might still. I'm not sure, but there's like a room always available that the hotel is knowing that we do it. Where we give free testing. Rapid testing.
And that's not where I thought you were going with that.
No. Rapid testing. Safety's important. And we have condoms that they'll give out. But it's not like on the brochure, you know.
Hey, I was told there would be sex here, and there's
right.
I haven't seen any.
It's just kind of like a thing that you kind of expect just like you would in a lot of gay bars.
Right.
Which, you know, I've been tested at a gay bar. You know, I was like, why not? Rapid testing. I haven't been tested in a while. Sure, let's do it.
So let's actually speak to some of the con stuff as well.
Sure.
Because to me, I think that like that is even more so than like the suiting and people in suits. That's really kind of the heartbeat of the furry community.
Well.
Listen, I know people that spend a lot of money going. They live in shacks going to cons.
I'm not sure if I would go as far to say that. It's a little complicated because, you know, we are for the most part, an internet subculture. Like that's where we keep our connections the most.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly kind of what separates us from a lot of other fandoms because you have like anime conventions and you have specific conventions like a Star Trek convention or Comic Cons and things like that. But the people that are into that, and while they definitely do keep acquaintances when they're not at the con with each other, it's probably not near on the same scale as what furries do. So we're constantly communicating with each other. This is more of a community rather than just a fandom. We don't have a a corporate media that we're I don't know what I'm trying to say. They're like the shows or
attached
something
to
like
like a specific.
We're not
show.
attached to any business that shares like some
IP
sort of media.
Yeah, like it's not like Star Trek cons,
right? Or
like
you'd have the Avengers out there, and maybe there'd be a guest of honor. Well, our guest of honor at a furry convention is going to be somebody that is pretty well known in our fandom. And the people that aren't in the fandom will probably not know who the hell this person is.
Right.
But everybody in the fandom, at least a very large percentage of them is probably going to be like, oh, holy crap, that's Kinket. I love Kinket. She's huge. I can't wait to meet her.
Right.
Because I've never met her before. And that's who we get excited about. So, but yes, cons are also somewhat the heartbeat, or definitely could be considered a heartbeat of fandom too, because that's where it was birthed from, in a way. Like the first furry convention that ever happened came from a sci-fi convention. Yeah.
Not shocked by that at all.
No. How could you be shocked? Where, another little joke in the furry fandom was like, hey, are there any IT furries here? And it's like, everybody raises their hand. It's like a million people. Like, most furries have like some sort of tech job. So those two are really interlinked with each other, where it's like, it's an internet subculture, but, and that's like super, super important that we're always in that social network with each other because we're always utilizing it. And then there are the conventions where we actually get to see each other and meet face to face these people that we've been talking to from around the world that we have never been able to meet, and hopefully get to meet several times more.
Right, and sometimes, and I've heard of people who have been talking with their, there's been full on relationships.
Oh yeah, that is really common in the furry fandom, where long distance relationships are they're just an accepted norm.
Yeah.
Because you'll see each other at a convention. Most often, some people just like any person else just jump into relationships, but at least for the ones that are a little more particular. The convention is a really good opportunity to meet these people that you've been talking to, see how you jive, and then be like, hey, we really hit it off at the convention. How about you come over and I'll come over to your house, wherever we're living, hang out with each other there, and see where it goes. And it's yeah, there's probably going to be some of that too. Personally, and I'm kind of an oddball on that because we were talking about being very sex positive. While I am very sex positive, I'm not very sexually active either. So I try not to sleep with a person the first time that I meet them, especially if I really like them. Because
you're like, yeah, you know what? I really like you, but you'll do. Has a guy get a nut off?
I have done that before. That isn't always the case. That is definitely not always the case. Sometimes I'm just like really into a guy and definitely would want to date them and just can't really help myself with that. They seem like they definitely wanted it too. So it's like, okay, yeah, we're doing this. But I try not to, just because I'm a little weird about that, where I feel insecure, in thinking that they might think that I am just interested in the sex. I don't want to give that impression. And that's important to me. Even if they tell me that that's not what it's about, that is not going to help at all. It's like, nope, sorry. I have to prove this not only to you, but to myself.
Okay. Do you think it's one of those things that maybe, like, you maybe to yourself, like, if I do this, then I won't be interested anymore afterwards?
No, definitely not. Not for me.
It's interesting. We'll have to drill into that a little bit later. So let's, so about the suit. Let's because these things are expensive.
Oh, yes. This is just a partial. And in the furry fandom right now, we would call this poodling because my arms are showing.
You're poodling?
I love the term. I think it's hilarious. Poodling. Yeah. This is where you don't have the sleeves, because I have a full suit. And I'm not even wearing my foot paws or my tail right now. So I am really half-ass poodling right now. And poodling is already objectively kind of half-ass. But, it's also totally cool and, like, more comfortable, too.
I'm like, I can, listen, every time I'm like, that seems so...
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And I've seen people out in, like, the middle of summer with the full suit
yeah.
on. And I'm like, I know you stink.
Stink? Well, nah. So
not you personally, but
some people do. Yeah, it's really important to wear your proper wicking gear under there. So while I don't want to say Under Armour, because I don't like Under Armour as a company, and unfortunately I did buy a bunch of Under Armour gear before I knew how shitty the CEO was.
It's usually what happens.
Like, I don't want to say, go get Under Armour, but something like Under Armour. It's really important to have that under your suit to keep the moisture out, and it just helps keep it clean. Cleaning the suit in itself is a bit of a chore, too, to keep it from getting stinky or nasty. But yes, it gets very hot. And I have a vest that I have to help me with that. It's called an Easy Cooldown Vest, and he is Easy Wolf is a member of the furry fandom, and he created this kind of like mesh vest that you wear that has these elongated pockets in the front and the back, and you put I think they're called like PCV, like ice packs in them, and they have special types where some of them are colder but don't last quite as long, where other ones don't get as cold but last longer. And then they have like an 8-cell one and a 4-cell one. So the 8-cell would be really good for if you needed a lot of movement. There's a lot of dancing in furry fandom.
Yes,
there's a lot of dancers. There's always a dance competition at every furry con. Like, it's pretty cool like to see people dancing in suit. Yeah, so they would probably want one of those 8-celled ones, and it's not going to last as long, but they're also not going to be on the stage as long.
Like, yeah, they're not going to be on there for hours and hours and hours and hours. It's
so, and I mean, I just got through having a good friend of mine, Cedar Wolf, coming out. Well, I have two good friends, Cedar Wolf, but Cedar Wolf, the fursuiter, and not the artist, not to be confused with the other Cedar Wolf, who also has a fursuiter, but is also an incredible artist, who's more known for his art than his fursuits. He would be a multi-suit, but we would call that
a multi-suit?
Multi-suiter, yeah. So if you have like multiple characters and then multiple suits, that would be a multi-suiter. And I would say that is not, because back to the misconception. Most people assume that most furries have fursuits, when in actuality it's like maybe 10-12%, and that's being pretty generous.
Well, I think that kind of goes back to them being really expensive.
Being really expensive, yeah. It's a price range, but then some people just aren't interested. So Sandy, he's not interested in having a fursuit. I mean, he did get this cheapo Walmart little hood, and then he airbrushed it to make it his own to match his fursona. We would call that like persona, fursona. There's a lot of furry lingo that's like.
Yeah, I feel like I need a primer on. I mean, I know a lot of furry lingo.
Well, interrupt me if I say something that's like, what is that?
Like, what is that?
We have a lot of that, but yeah, there are definitely furries out there that aren't interested in ever owning a fursuit, and it's more common that most furries only have one fursona, or they have one character. It can be really complicated when it comes to what kind of furry somebody is,
and people change as well too, right? Like it's
that's common. Some people they grow as a person, and while they're growing, they realize things about themselves change over time, and then they don't feel themselves relating to an earlier rendition of how they were feeling at that time when they created that character. And it's really common where somebody has gone through something where they've broken up, or maybe they've transitioned sexually, their gender, and they no longer relate to an earlier rendition. And it's not I guess it's appropriate, not inappropriate for me to say this now that he has already come out. But yeah, Cedar Wolf, who I mentioned, he's a really good friend of mine. Well, he is female to male, and when I first met him, he did not say anything over voice. I actually met him on Second Life, and I knew of him before from his art, because again, phenomenal artist, and we hit it off. But the only thing that he would say to me over voice chat was just no, that's it, just a joke. And then finally he started coming out, and his voice was effeminate, and he was transitioning. But after he got through transitioning, he no longer felt as attached to his old character. And the reason why I kind of want to tell that story a bit is because you can see that kind of character change very dramatically in that kind of situation, mm-hmm. because his old character was a werewolf style character, and he was black. His former name was actually Dark Ice Wolf, not Cedar Wolf as it is now. Once he finished his transition, he didn't really relate to that character anymore. That was a more morbid, not necessarily morbid, but he was going through some stuff,
right?
Some sad stuff, and his folks are so with it. It could be worse. It could certainly be better.
Right.
So he's gone through a lot of emotional stress and pain over that transition, and now he is fully transitioned, and he's a hell of a lot more comfortable. He has come out. That's why I can say this now, because it was very much a secret, years ago, where I was not allowed to say anything about that. Not that it was really prevalent. Now it kind of is.
Right.
But he changed from that black character to a red wolf character, which is a lot more brighter, I guess.
It's kind of a where his mind state is.
Yeah, and it is honestly a little. I've got a little annoyed with him in a fun sort of way. I'm just like, lately, because I've been doing a lot of remodeling on my home, and I'm like, I like dark floors, and I like the wall is this darker green, and he's like, all these dark colors, man, you're gonna be depressed. And I'm like, no.
He's like, no, I live in darkness. Darkness is my friend.
Well, it's not dark to me, and it's just like, it's this beautiful foliage, like foresty green, and the floors are like a dark tobacco, and it's beautiful. And I'm gonna have black trim, and it's not depressing. Every time that I've walked by it, I've smiled. I'm proud of it. So you're wrong, buddy.
You're wrong.
I love you. But
so let's get into. So we were talking about the suits being expensive. How much on average? Just because I really want people to understand, like this is it's a commitment. Like when you decide I'm going to do. Oh, and it's no joke too. Like some people have a ridiculous amount of cash just at their disposal. But my suit. So again, this is just a partial, not even the full partial, not including the tails, not the foot paws or the arm extension, which is kind of like arm warmers. Yeah, they're kind of like arm warmers, but also kind of like suspenders in a way. But they just don't go this way. The suspension strap is in the back to keep it on you, so you can put it over your shirt, and then it'll just have the sleeve all the way down there, and then you can wear a shirt over that, and it looks a lot more natural. Less poodly. Yeah, you're more anthropomorphized in a way in that style of wearing your suit. So, but my full suit, which is actually digitigrade, and that is like it's a scientific term where, like, you know, the hawk where it's double jointed on like a dog or something, that's digitigrade, and where we don't as humans have that extra joint there, that would be called plantigrade. So my suit is digitigrade, and the way that you achieve that, well, there's several ways. The most common way, which is the way that my suit is just an optical illusion, where you'll have extra padding in the front of your thigh, and then extra padding at your calf, but your leg is right down the middle. Right. So that way it just kind of looks like you have that, and that's an upgrade. Obviously it's more material and more skill. The people that make fursuits generally do this as a business, like full time. Right. It usually takes a pretty good while to get a good one made. But my full suit with the digigrade, I got 2 sets of paws, hand paws, just in case something happens to one of them, and then indoor and outdoor paws. The only difference between indoor and outdoor paws is that an outdoor paw is your like general paw that you'd wear, and it just has a foam bottom to it. Okay. Where it doesn't really matter what you're stepping on. You can easily clean that, and hopefully you're not like walking on too many sharp things that would damage the foam. But we actually make shoes for that too. Furries make a way. We find a way. We're very pervasive. But and we run the internet. And the indoor paws will have the same fur material on the bottom with paw pads. Okay. So that's obviously you don't want to walk on dirt. Right. With that. Yeah. So that's make sure that all the surfaces are clean. Right. Yeah. And even at a convention, I don't really like walking around the convention hotel with indoor paws. Because I don't know what's on the floor. You don't know what's on the floor, and it's just that's a lot of walking. Yeah. There's a lot of walking. So they're more for like photos and, just fun videos and fun videos. Fun videos. Oh, we're gonna get into that in a minute. Sure. That's why I'm moving. That's why I'm like. Oh yeah. So I didn't get to the price tag there. Yeah. So the full suit with the digigrade, with the extra paws, with the arm extensions. I mean, I went and got all out. I went all out on it. It cost me $5,500, and that's not including the other stuff that you are gonna want and some things that you're gonna need to be able to properly maintain and care for your fursuit either. Right. Which could easily cost you another $1,000, $2,000. But that's just my suit. You can get a suit similar to mine that's not digigrade for without the extra paws, without the extra arm extension. Just a one plantigrade suit for probably around $3,500. It's still it's a lot of money, but that's not even getting into some of the auctions that sometimes happen from like really, really amazing artists. And like one artist is Zuri, and she's probably, or they, I'm not quite sure their gender, so they
are really, really an amazing, amazing fursuit creator. Definitely my favorite out there. This one is not Zuri. And she doesn't take commissions. She just kind of like makes a suit and will sell it.
So you have to be like, this is just now what my soda is now.
Yeah. Now I really, 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 really hope that she will hire a team and like, make it more available. Because while it's great that people will buy it at like incredible cost, and you're gonna just shit yourself when I say her last suit that she sold, I think it went for $70,000, and that one was custom. It was just a custom, like, here, you bid on this auction, and if you win, I will make a custom suit for you, which I don't usually do.
I don't, $70,000.
Yeah. So that's more than I make in a year.
Same. It's more than I've ever made in a year.
Yeah.
Like,
I've never made that much in a single year. It's quite a lot.
Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
These are not cheap to make. They're definitely not that expensive. But, art is what people value it at. It's not what you value it at if you didn't buy it, right?
I mean, I guess.
So, like, I don't really like Picasso paintings that much, not the abstract things. It's not very appealing to me. But I'm not the one that bought it for $2 million because they really liked it. So it's worth $2 million to them. It's worth $70,000 to this guy.
Okay, so that brings us, I hear you, but then that brings us to there are people, we talked about the mersuits before.
Yeah.
And there are people like to me, I always think of that and go, it seems so hot. And not hot as in like the sexy way. It's like
temperature, yeah.
Temperature is like, it's hot and you're sweating.
Right.
Like,
so
that's with the expense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So most fursuiters do not engage in sexual acts inside their fursuit. Not just because it is hot, but also because it's very expensive, and you don't want to mess it up.
Or I'm putting jizz on my suit. I'll
fuck
you
suit,
up.
To be blunt, yeah. So, and the cleaning and care is difficult as well.
Right, because you can't just throw that in the wash.
Well, you can. With a lot of suits and with certain parts, like the head, you would probably never want to throw in your like any head never should go in a washing machine. I can't ever see how that would be the best way to clean a head.
That's if you want to.
The head is the most expensive part. Like this head alone was the $2,500, I think. 2,500 or 22. Jesus. Somewhere I don't remember. It's been, I guess, 2 years ago since I had this suit.
I remember when you were getting fitted for the suit. They had to wrap you up in
So there's
duct
a special thing that we do for that, and it's called a duct tape dummy, or DTD. And they're fun. They're fun to make. It's a ritual sort of thing. When somebody gets their suit, they're gonna make a duct tape dummy. And the best way to do it is to get a painter smock. The whole hoodie-like thing that you put on. And you buy a shit ton of duct tape, and somebody cuts little strips of it. You don't take the whole roll and go like that because it'll get it too tight, and you don't want to cut off your blood, circulation or anything like that. And you also want to be able to get it off without like cutting yourself.
Right.
So you cut little strips, and then you just take and go around their whole body.
And you do that. You do that closed, right? Like you have the clothes on, the regular clothes, and then the painter smock.
Yeah, you'd probably not want to wear your best clothes just in case you do accidentally get it snipped when you're cutting it off, because you do have to cut it off with scissors. So wouldn't be recommended to wear your favorite shirt.
Because I would just always think, like, if you want it to be, if you would want it to like fit to your body, and like say if you're wearing jeans, it wouldn't necessarily Like if you put it on while you've got jeans on and you're doing this thing, it would be too big.
Well, so yes and no. Like you're definitely not going to want to wear jeans that are really saggy, that have like, I forget what they call that in tailoring, but like the
inseam,
like it would need to be pretty close to your groin. Like you wouldn't want to get one that's lower. I mean, obviously,
right?
And it might even be best just to wear underwear on it and just a white T-shirt. I think that's what most people do, anyways, just because you're going to be in that for probably about 30 minutes, and if you think this is hot, imagine getting them duct tape. You know?
So it's almost like you're like, if you can do the duct tape, then you can handle the suit.
Well, to be fair, you're not moving around in the duct tape. You can't move around. You are fucking stuck there. And you take like 2 poles and just kind of hold them to help your arms because you want to be able to T-pose for like 30 minutes.
You're like
30, 40 minutes.
I'm Michelangelo's David.
As quick as you can. Get this done.
Hurry this up because I can't.
But the duct tape dummy is really important because it is just a way for you to mail that out to your creator wherever they live in the world. And now they don't need to be like, hey, I'm going to teach you how to take proper measurements for my professional tailoring business.
Right. They can just be like, well, we put this together. This is what you did. Cool.
Yeah. And they will actually take that and cut it further into little pieces to be able to make sure that all these pieces fit correctly. And they do want to give you a little bit of wiggle room with that too.
Right.
Like I told my creator before I even got my fursuit, or they started it, that I'm going to have an easy cool down vest because I don't like being hot, but this is worth it. But I'm not going to suffer as much as I have to. So the easy cool down vest is easily going to add an extra inch, I guess, on both area, like front and back.
Right.
So they made it just a little bit larger for me too. But yeah, the duct tape dummy is just a way for them to be able to take thousands of different measurements without ever having to ask you.
To ask you for it. And it's I'm still back on this sex thing because it just...
It's way hot. Yeah.
It's so hot. Like, it's...
There's like, not many people that engage in it, but there's definitely people that do. And there's all sorts of different terms for that, too. So, you know, I already said the mersuiter.
Right.
And then you have, like... So instead of just, like, outright asking somebody as a furry to another furry, like, are you a mersuiter? You might say as a bit of a fun way and jokingly way, maybe you're serious, maybe you're just being jokey with it. They're like, do you have a strategically placed hole? Yeah, which we say SPH for. But yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to alter your fursuit if you want to do that.
And I think
how many people really want to cut a hole in their $2,500 or $3,500 fursuit?
Listen.
Right.
Not on God's green and fertile earth. I won't
But then again, I just said that some people have the cash to throw out $70,000 on one fursuit too, and there are definitely fursuiters out there that have like the same fursuit, but a copy of them too.
Listen, if I spend $70,000 on a suit, I better not need you for a damn thing. Do you hear me? It better be able to have... all my bases need to be covered.
I think if you have $70,000 to just blow on anything recreational like that you're probably not worrying about money too much. And I'm not really thinking that that's a great thing either. That, you know, and that's kind of also why I'm like, I really hope Zuri will just do regular commissions and not do auctions. You made the money to be able to do whatever you want now and have a shop. But, you know, that's just me. I don't really like a lot of parts of capitalism, but I want everybody to prosper at the same time. You know, it's like a wishy-washy thing. I'm definitely not shaming Zuri. I adore their work. I honestly don't really know much about them as a person.
So one of the things that I have 2 more questions for you. Mm-hmm. One on the, like, one of the things that I learned, and maybe you can tell me if this is wrong or right. If you see someone with that's a suitor that has shorts, 9 times out of 10 it's because they have a strategically placed hole.
That's not a statistic that I was aware of, but I'm mean, I could see that I wouldn't say 9 times out of 10, but I could definitely see that as being a thing. And there's definitely a time of night at a lot of conventions where, like, after 10 p.m., a lot more fursuiters come down with, like, American Eagle, like, briefs over their fursuit. I can't physically do that with the digi-leg. Like, I'd have to be wearing some granny panties and, like,
stitch them together.
Yeah, because my damn thighs are just so huge.
Just be like,
right.
I mean, but still, I would be like, do you know how much this suit cost? You get the fuck away from me. Like, you get away from me.
Yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't be interested in doing anything with my suit, but then again, it is my only suit right now, and I mean, I'm not opposed to it. If I had another suit, if I had a plantigrade suit, which would be substantially less hot too, and I would definitely be wearing my easy cooldown vest.
You gonna have to, because all that pumping and sweating, and you're just like, get off of me. You're out here creating forest fires.
There's some videos out there, and it's usually kind of funny, because like in all the videos, you can see their fur is just like blowing because they've got like 5 box fans or something like that.
Because it's hot. Because it's gotta be hot.
Outside of the camera, yeah.
It's like, Jesus, like I'm not even gonna get off on this because all of the liquid has left my body because I'm sweating.
I think if somebody wants to go through that and be that hot and go all out to get 5 different fans and whatnot, if they're gonna go through that, they're gonna get off because there was a sincere effort.
I'm not kink shaming.
Oh yeah, neither am I.
Do you?
So do each other if it's consensual.
Yeah, as long as it's consensual. So I wanted to talk about kind of whenever you hear people who are like anti-furry, there's always this idea that, kids see the mascots and think, see the suits and think of them as mascots, and it's like enticing children in some sort of way. And that was one of the misconceptions and things that I wanted to dispel.
Sure. Yeah, totally. So, that definitely has a lot of history behind it and not based in anything in fact. I mean, of course, you have exceptions, but are we assuming immediately that if you say that you're a priest that you diddy kids? Like... I'm just saying.
I mean, wow.
Like, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a thing. And it's really kind of disappointing that there's people out there that definitely that would be their go-to, like, immediate thought is like, oh, you like trying to convert my kid to be in your weird cult thing or something like that. And it's not about that at all. Of course, you've got exceptions. They are not welcome in the fandom. Not at all. If somebody in the fandom were to find out that somebody engaged in any sexual acts with a minor, that person would be outcast pretty quickly. We don't like that. Like most people should.
Right, like most people.
Yeah, you really shouldn't like that. But don't engage in it. Not okay.
Yeah, but one of the reasons that I wanted to ask you that is because that is something that you kind of hear a lot, especially when you look at cons and I've never been to a con, obviously.
Hoping to change that.
You keep saying that.
Everybody keeps telling you that.
Everybody keeps telling me that. But it's this idea that like. If you guys have kind of descended upon like this hotel and there could be kids there and oh my god the children kind of thing and really it's pretty complicated. There's not a full range of agreement on like every particular issue when it comes to just like what's acceptable and what is not acceptable. And no pizza.
I mean, if you really want to get real about it, it's like that's the furry fandom's greatest strength and its greatest weakness at the same time, is we're a very, very open and accepting community. So sometimes it can be hard to find that line to draw where it's like, well, is it acceptable to wear overtly BDSM gear in the public lobby space of a hotel where not everybody at the hotel is a participant in the convention that's happening there at the time, and subjecting their child to that, right? So,
right. But I think that would be the same in any kind of kink.
Yeah,
because it's about consent, and did that person consent to
right.
seeing
So
that behavior?
it gets pretty complicated. There's not a full range of agreement on it. I kind of draw some lines on some areas, but like it's just kind of hard to. I'm not gonna fight it for because the things that I would rather not see like is some of the I wouldn't really prefer to see a lot of the BDSM gear, the pup mask and things like that for the daytime hours of a convention, walking around personally. But a lot of people are totally okay with that. And that's a conversation that has not really fully been hashed out because we just have bigger shit to
Right.
to address aside from that. So
there's always really, something. There's always some kind of drama going
bigger,
on.
And that's just not really one that I think many people are super concerned with, including myself. I'm just saying, as preference, I would probably prefer that would be kept at the after hours.
Right.
I'm totally cool. Like that 8 p.m., 10 p.m. hour. If you're at the convention that time, I'm like, and you're not attending the convention, it's like, sorry.
I can definitely see that there's a time period where, okay, this stuff cuts off and let's go to,
Yeah, but, there's always sections for that too. So, like, I mean, you want to be real again. It's like I said that this started all out at a sci-fi convention a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this was, I think, in the 80s, yeah. So LGBT stuff, not very commonly accepted in the 80s. And these individuals who were really nerdy and drew a lot of anthropomorphic art, which anthropomorphic is just an animal or with human-like characteristics and or traits and features. So like Bugs Bunny would technically be an anthropomorphic animal, but we would also make a further distinction and say that they're a funny animal rather than like somebody's persona. Right, because that's just a cartoon sort of everyday thing, and this is a little bit more specific, a lot more human characters, personality, usually engaged in some sort of society like structure, like living amongst other furries, like Zootopia.
Like Zootopia, I was gonna say like Zootopia would be.
Oh, absolutely, and that I think we saw like 20% increase in like how many people were engaged in the furry fandom
after Zootopia.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, like, and it's so interesting how how younger members of the community. Like how many people are coming into the community?
Oh yeah,
younger and younger.
I'd say that the average age for furries is probably 18, 23 in that area. I'm 34. I've been around for a while.
Babies.
At least I've been around in the fandom for quite a while.
Did you go kind of get into it at like that 18, 24 age?
That's kind of complicated. Like I would consider myself a furry before I knew what a furry was. So, I didn't. I just like some cartoons, like All Dogs Go to Heaven, Balto, and there was a TV show called Spy Dogs way back in the day.
I remember Spy Dogs.
Dude, I flippin' love that show. Oh my god, I love that show so much.
Listen, and Wishbone, don't even get me started on
Wishbone was great too. But Spy Dogs in particular, I believe is when I started really drawing. Okay. And I don't draw much anymore, But I had like a whole series of Spy Dog-esque characters that I would draw, and I used to have most of those, but I think they're maybe in my parents' storage or lost forever. And well, I guess that's probably essentially the same thing. To be honest with you, we don't talk. We don't really get along very well. But yeah, I was drawing furry art before I knew what a furry was. It was always something that I was super interested in, and not just that on the surface level. That like, oh yeah, I really like cartoons. Just like, no, that's so cool. How cool would it be to like live in that society, sort of thing, and be that character or be a character in that show or something like that. So I think that kind of like is where I went with it. And it wasn't until I was, yeah, probably around 18, 19 that I actually found out about it. I was a little bit of a late bloomer in that, but then again, I was also in the middle of freaking nowhere for 2 years too, like with very limited internet access, and like you didn't shower but once a week.
Oh, Jesus!
You have to, because you live on a natural aqueduct.
Yeah, that's when you were living at the Wolf Preserve, right?
So I've always had a very, very intimate interest in canines, especially wolves. So much so that I was a subscriber to Dog Fancy, the magazine, like at age like 12 or something like that. I really loved learning about dogs. And you know, when the internet became a thing and the AOL 60-minute little CDs.
Oh my God, yeah. I remember those.
Heck yeah, little your dial up, all that good stuff.
Yes.
I went online and like learn about canines, and I printed out hundreds and hundreds of just textual pages of learning about wolves in particular. And then I ended up working at a wolf sanctuary. 2 of them actually for a year each, as well, because it's just that important to me. But yeah, when you're living out in the middle of the mountains in a teepee, 9,300 elevation, you're completely off the grid, and you have 63 wolves to feed and 3 other people that are going to be living there year round, and up to maybe 14 in like summer, maybe spring, when you've got more tourists coming or temporary volunteers. But yeah, you've got a limited water supply. A lot of wolves that need their water, you're probably only going to take a shower once or twice a week. But living out there, and not with all the smog and everything like that, you honestly don't really smell bad either. If you smell like anything, you smell like campfire. And there was this one guy, I'll never forget him. I was so absolutely jealous of his hair. He had this long, beautiful, like down the mid-back, blonde, straight, wispy, perfect hair. And we're living out in the middle of fucking nowhere, taking a shower once a week, and his hair is just like Fabio blowing in the wind, like perfect.
I hate you,
and I'm like,
I hate you and your hair.
Yeah, it's like I hate you and your hair. I want your hair. I wish that was my hair.
Well, Wolfgang, thank you so much for coming in and doing this. This has been great. Where can people get more information on KC Fur?
Oh, well, you know, I wish I could give you a better answer for that. Because they had that Google Spaces thing and it got shut down, or they discontinued, I guess. They're just not doing that anymore. And we were trying to get somebody to build our site for a few years, and that never happened. So now we're looking for another person to build our site. Best way to get a hold of us at current is really on Telegram.
Okay.
Yeah, where we have a group chat on there, but hopefully I'll have some better information for you later. We do have a Twitter account as well.
Twitter's always good for people.
It's not very active. We're trying to work on that as well. We've been going through a lot of changes, and I've been on the board for a long time, but there's only like 4 of us, and then COVID happened.
I'm sure COVID is like much like everybody else. I'm sure COVID shut everybody down.
All of our plans. We had all of these things lined up. Like we had a venue that we were going to be booking for every month for weekly or monthly town halls and everything, and that just got shot. So we're still trying to figure all that stuff out. So I wish I could give you a better answer for that, but we're around. We have events. If you join the Telegram, if you have Telegram, it's at kcfur. I believe that's the same as our Twitter, which isn't super active right now, but again, we're trying to work on that. You could find us there.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget, we are in the middle of our November fundraiser drive. The link is down below. Also, you can find all of those things that have been scrolling across your screen. This has been another episode of Kansas City Legends from KC Caffeine. This was Wolfgang. Thank you so much.
Pleasure being here. And sorry I ramble. I don't usually give clear answers because I ramble. And I get sidetracked and I smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah. Oh, and you guys have a great night. It was fucking amazing.